The Fat Controller preferred steam engines on his railway, but he found diesels useful because they could pull either coaches or trucks. "You're versatile," he would say to them. "Real mixed traffic engines." Boko and Bear were proud of this, but James was not impressed. He liked these two diesels, but he treated all others with deep suspicion. "Mixed-up engines," James grunted, "with windows at each end. How can they know if they're coming or going? If an important engine like me didn't know which way to turn, what would the railway come to?" One day, a particularly haughty diesel came from the other railway. He stopped outside in disgust and refused to go any further. "Why on earth does your controller keep such out-of-date objects?" he growled rudely. "Dirty, smoky, slow things. Ugh!" He shuddered delicately. "On our railway," the diesel continued loftily, "steam engines are kept strictly in their place and not allowed on the main line without special permission." Boko, who was showing the diesel round, lost patience. "Stay outside then if you're so proud about it," he said crossly. "I'm going to join my friends." "I hope it's cold tonight and he can't start in the morning," snorted James. "At least someone might want to preserve us. Who'd need him? Old stuck-up." The engines were glad when morning came. They went to fetch their trains as early as they could, and the visitor was left alone. Old Stuck-up was so full of self-importance that he'd forgotten he would need cleaning and refueling before he went home. It was getting late when he remembered. "If I go in now while the shed is empty," he said to himself, "no one will know I've been." He scuttled forward quickly, too quickly. The rails were oily, and when he tried to stop, he couldn't. "Brake blocks and buffers, I'm slipping!" he wailed. He shut his eyes as he crashed into the wall at the end of the shed. James grew so conceited that the others were glad when he was away. Even the coaches twittered anxiously to each other if they thought he was to pull them. All the engines agreed that James was becoming much too puffed up in his smoke box. "Making out his royalty or something," grumbled Henry. "It's disgusting." "I knew an engine called King James," remarked Duck, "in the old days at Paddington. King James I, he was, but he didn't swank about like that." "Och, then I be telling James that," pleaded Donald. "It's even more of a misery he'll be making our lives." "Exactly," agreed Henry, "but who's going to trim his wheels for him?" One day, James came to the shed, fuming with rage. "Shunting," he snorted. "Where are Donald and Douglas? They should be here for jobs like that." James's train had long trucks called well wagons. These have bogey wheels at each end, with a low section between them. The weather was damp and misty, so the shunting took a long time. At last James had only 2 trucks to fetch before his train was ready. Because of the mist, the signalman sometimes found it hard to see what was happening. James's driver told him that James would whistle when they had collected all the trucks and were clear of the points. They had almost finished when suddenly James heard a sharp from another engine close by. The signalman heard it too and thought it was James saying he was ready. He pulled the lever, setting the points for the main line. The points changed when one of the trucks was halfway over them. A signal stood right in its path. "Stop!" But it was too late. The signal toppled to the ground with a crash. "That's torn it," said James's driver. "The Fat Controller won't like that." He didn't. He spoke severely about it because the signal was important and its loss was inconvenient. James knew that the accident was not his fault, but he was unusually quiet in the shed that evening. The others were relieved. "I suppose it must be difficult to know which way to go when you've got 2 cabs," whispered a voice. "But to go 2 ways at once with only 1 cab, that really is something." James pretended he hadn't heard.